The harsh truth when it comes to your healing journey is that you still have to show up despite what you have faced and what you've gone through in your past, as well as what you're going through right now in the moment, in order for you to get to the other side and become successful and to elevate. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, High Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then that means it's not in line, which means it's not for you, so don't force it. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. In this video, we're going to go over and discuss the harsh truths of having to be consistent, having to be committed despite all the trials and tribulations and adversity that you've overcome and had to endure, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, and some disclaimers for the month of April, because it is a new month, it's a new season. We need to go ahead and get these things out of our system, so therefore we can continue to move forward, because that's the purpose of the video and that's how life works. Just because you go through certain things in life doesn't mean it's the end of the world. The only reason why we think it's the end of the world is because a lot of times maybe we weren't taught and shown how to move forward, how to become resilient, how to be perseverant, how to show up for ourselves, or maybe because unfortunately you've gone through so many trials and tribulations, you're just like, when is it gonna end? And I'm here to tell you, it's only going to end when it's time to end, when it's time for you to leave this earth. So the first disclaimer is knowing that you are going to experience things in life, because that's how you grow. Now, the second disclaimer is allowing yourself to experience certain lessons in certain chapters. What has helped me along my healing journey was to realize there were certain seasons, there were certain moments that I had to go through in order for me to learn certain lessons. Until you understand why you may have to struggle or suffer, or was in poverty, or you were touched on, or you were beaten on, or you were neglected, or you were bullied, or you didn't have certain resources and tools, you will continue to beat yourself up and you will continue to spiral on that same cycle or path. This is why it's so important that when you are elevating, that the third disclaimer is that as you are allowing yourself to process what has happened to you, as you're allowing yourself to grieve, you are seeking assistance, like a psychiatrist, a therapist. You guys are following, liking, and engaging. You are going to God, your ancestors, or the universe. Take what resonates, leave the rest, because I'm there here to force religion or spirituality. Like, it's so important to realize psychologically, subconsciously, emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially what is happening to you, because when you don't, you will start to feel like you're schizophrenic. You will start to become depressed. You will start to feel anxious, especially if you grew up in environments where you are not able to be seen or heard or express yourself. So if you grew up in a dysfunctional household, if you grew up around narcissistic people, if you grew up around envy, if you grew up dysfunction, if you grew up in poverty, like if you grew up with people neglecting you, if you grew up around people who were greedy, like, you will start to rationalize these behaviors and these projections and deflections, and you will start to become accustomed to it. You will think it's normal, when unfortunately it's not normal, it's common. So you have to realize, as you are learning to accept what you've gone through and how it's made you feel, the fourth disclaimer is knowing that you are not alone. This is why I created this content. Like I said, there are so many other people who suffer and go through things. It's just a lot of people try to act as if they don't go through things, which some people do not suffer as much as others. So you should never compare yourself or look outside of yourself from certain people, places, and things. But knowing that majority of people are going to experience trials and tribulations. Like I said, how severe, it depends on who they are as a person and what their path has for them. So it's important that, yes, you seek assistance, you surround yourself with people who allow you to feel safe and seen, but you also are removing yourself from these people and these places and things who are not vulnerable, who are not honest, or who are not able to pour into you, or who have the capacity to be there for you. Like, just because you go through trials and tribulations doesn't mean that you go around telling people that you trauma dump, or you expect everyone to always be there for you, because some people are not. But knowing when you are going through things, it's important to have a good sense of community, and if you don't, to separate yourself. And that's the fifth disclaimer. If you don't have the friends, if you don't have the finances, if you're not watching these videos, this is why I post you guys on here for free, okay? You need to be able to separate yourself, because when you are going through trials and tribulations and you don't have anyone to let that out on, you're gonna go through a psychosis. You're going to become paranoid. You're gonna be anxious. You're gonna be depressed. And when you're healing yourself from past trauma that you've been suppressing because you weren't able to be safe and seen and heard, you're gonna go through a fluctuation of withdrawals. That's why some days you feel good, some days you feel bad, some days you feel confident, some days you feel sad, especially if you're elevating and becoming the best version of yourself. This is why I made it the honest truths and the harsh truths, because as you're elevating, you're constantly going to have an identity shift. As you're elevating, you're constantly going to have an ego death. As you're elevating, you're constantly going to change. And a lot of times change is only uncomfortable when you're not used to growing, when you're not used to moving forward, or like I said, you don't have support, or maybe you don't know how because you've been so paralyzed. This is why, like I said, people have PTSD, ADD, BPD, and just feel so bad about themselves. So when it comes to the recommendations with you showing up and being consistent, is realizing that you did survive. If you have breath in your body and you're watching this video, pat yourself on the back. You are doing okay. Now, this doesn't mean that you feel okay. This doesn't mean that what has happened to you in your past did not happen, but it's like, we have to learn how to be grateful, which I've made videos talking about. If you want a new version, let me know, type the word grateful. But you have to learn how to be grateful. You have to learn how to be present. You have to learn how to see the joy in situations, because like I said, some days may be better than others. You still have to show up, because the moment you give up on yourself is the moment you stay still. And that's the only reason why it seems so difficult and so challenging, because it's like when we go through things, and like I said, we don't have therapists, we don't have friends, we don't have finances, we don't have community, we make our problems so much more bigger than what they are, when the problems that we're having is to teach us certain things. And like I said, until you learn the lesson, you will continue that cycle. So that's the second thing. Start paying attention to what is happening to you in your life and why it's happening to you and how it's making you feel. So if you're having to go through certain things in your life, there's a reason. On this channel, I'm here to motivate, inform, and educate. For those of you who are new here, on this account as a naturopathic physician, which means to heal yourself internally. And I've also talked about some of the trials and tribulations that I've gone through, so therefore you guys can relate and understand that everybody goes through things. One of the examples that I gave was that when I was 19, 10 years ago, I got into a really bad car accident. I have been in multiple car accidents, but that one specific one in 2016, it was bad. The reason why it was bad was because nobody taught me how to drive. I didn't have the luxury of having parents teaching me how to drive. I went to driving school because illegally that's how I was able to get my license, and I practiced when I was in driving school a couple of times. But other than the times I was in driving school, like to take my actual driving test, I've only had one time. I had a friend who I was close with. Her mom allowed me to drive her car, and I drove one time with my biological mother. The other time with my father, he was trying to teach me how to drive a stick shift, a manual car. Other than those couple of times, 2-3 times, I didn't have much experience. So the reason why I got into that car accident then was because I needed to learn like how to be responsible, how to maintain a car, how to drive, how to be mindful, because situations in life are going to be life or death. You're either going to live and see the next day, or you may lose your life. And this is why it's so imperative to pay attention. Why did you have to go through certain things? Another example I talk about was when I was 20 years old, I got fired. I was a finance representative. I got fired because I needed to realize what I wanted to do with my career, how I wanted to take care of myself financially, and most importantly, what I wanted to do just with life. Like, we only think it's the end of the world because either you're used to suffering and struggling, and like I said, you don't have friends, you don't have family, you don't have community, and you have to be the person who makes the necessary changes, like breaking the generational cycles, or because you have been limited, like there's some type of projection or deflection that you've been exposed to where like you don't feel good about yourself. And that's the third thing. You have to let go of the limitations. You need to figure out where these limited beliefs are coming from. I've also made a video talking about letting go of limitations. There's something in your subconscious or your conscious mind that's blocking you from becoming the best version of yourself. A lot of times it is trauma, and rather it's trauma because you have gone through certain things, like you witnessed certain things, you've seen certain things, or is at the expense of other people, places, and things. So for example, if you've been bullied, if you grew up in a narcissistic home, if you grew up in dysfunction, if you grew up around toxic people, a lot of times you will pick on other people's fears and projections and deflections and think they're your own. Me personally, unfortunately, I've met a lot of people in life where they projected, they deflected, they didn't think highly of themselves, they didn't think much of themselves. So they would say and do certain things. Sometimes it was intentional, sometimes it wasn't. And I personally, I've been grateful to not like absorb the energy. I was able to observe, which is a difference. So like it never affected me, but a lot of times if you're surrounded by people who don't see certain things for themselves, they will make you feel like some type of way. They'll make you feel bad, and it's like you can't feel bad about wanting more or wanting to do more. So like if you have goals and dreams and people say, "Oh, that's impossible," or "You can't do that," you can't. No, don't listen to them. That's the harsh truth. Like you still have to show up regardless of what you go through, because if you don't have the family, if you don't have the friends, if you don't have the community, nobody's gonna hold your hand. Like I can only do so much. Shout out to my math teacher, Mr. Gill. He said you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like I can only pour so much into you guys. You still have to do the work. And my channel and who I am as a person, like the type of people who resonate with me, are the people who want to do the work and who are showing up. This doesn't mean that people who have to do the work and be this discipline and this structure don't feel any type of way or want to, because I don't think anybody, I mean, let me not say that. Let me not even get into that. But the people who watch these videos, we have to hold ourselves accountable. Like I've had to learn how to hold myself accountable in a lot of ways. And I realized that like it's so important that when you are elevating and you're evolving, like I said, you just show up for yourself. Because if you don't show up for yourself, who's going to show up for you? Like if you have people and places and things who don't think highly of themselves, who don't pour into themselves, who don't support you, who are not there for you, how are you going to get to where you need to be? Like what I've realized is that you shouldn't expect other people to congratulate you before you congratulate yourself. Because it's like when you congratulate yourself, when you can show up for yourself, when you can be there for you, it's the best feeling in the world. Like yes, you may feel like nobody wants to help me, nobody wants to support me. Who cares? Like everyone doesn't have the capacity. Like even when I make my channel and I posted, you guys, when I first started, obviously nobody knows who I am other than people who were once familiar with me. But it's like people may not always support you in the beginning. People may not always be there for you because people have their own problems. So like when people would watch my videos and they wouldn't comment, but they'd be like, "Oh, I saw your video," or they would watch and they didn't like, I didn't feel no type of way. I can't be like, "Oh, these people are watching me and they don't want." I tell people if it doesn't resonate with you, send it and share it to somebody who does. And if they choose to be here, that's on them. Like I don't have parasocial relationships with people. I don't stalk people. I'm not infatuated with people that much. And I know it's not healthy because what you focus on grows. I always tell people, like, if you don't want to watch something, if you don't like something, you don't have to. But like, it's important that you like yourself, because people are not always going to like you. People are not always going to be there for you. And it's just like, I don't think it's fair for you or I to not continue to live our life just because we go through things or we have people who are around us who are miserable, whether it's intentional or not. Because sometimes people are going to say and do things to hurt and harm you or distract you on purpose. And then sometimes they're doing it because, once again, they're ignorant, they're naive, like whatever it is. So it's just like, it's really important that you learn to build a relationship with yourself. So therefore, regardless of what you're going through, you know you have yourself. But it's like, if you say that you believe in God or the ancestors in the universe, you're never really alone. Now, if you're an atheist, you got to learn how to believe in yourself. Once again, I'm not here to force religion, spirituality, but it's like, you can't say, even with myself, you guys, I can't say, "Oh yeah, I believe in God, I believe in my ancestors, I believe in the universe," and not think that that's not a thing. And I'm not going to get too deep into that because we don't talk about those things. Like, we're not here to convince people to believe in certain things. I don't agree with that. We respect people's differences and beliefs. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we come in peace. We do human being things. But just think about it. Like, until you learn how to show up for yourself, you're always going to feel like you're not going to be able to move forward. So those are the recommendations. Those are the disclaimers. If you want a part 2, or if you need help with how you should be committed or how to become consistent, let me know. Like I said, I've made over 1,000 videos already, but if you want new ones that are updated, I can give you some new ones. If not, make sure you guys are following me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below, as well as follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. I will be going live talking about that for the rest of the month of April. And yeah, I love you, your love. Until next time, peace.